There are moments in royal history that are remembered not because of grand ceremonies or official speeches, but because of a single, deeply personal gesture that quietly says everything words never could. On what would have been Princess Diana's 65th birthday, Britain once again found itself looking back at the woman whose legacy continues to shape the monarchy nearly 3 decades after her death. Yet this time, it was not a tribute organized by palace officials or a carefully planned public celebration that captured the nation's attention. Instead, it was something Prince William did that many believe carried a message far more powerful than any formal announcement. For years, William has walked a delicate path between honoring his mother's memory and protecting his own family from living under the constant shadow of the past. Every appearance, every anniversary, and every decision has been viewed through that emotional lens. But this birthday felt different. Those who watched closely noticed a quiet shift, one that seemed less about looking backward and more about carrying Diana's values into the future. The significance was not found in spectacle. It was found in symbolism, in the choice of timing, in the setting, and perhaps most importantly, in what remained unspoken. Royal traditions are built on carefully measured gestures, where even silence can speak louder than a speech. Many observers believe William understood exactly that. As crowds reflected on Diana's enduring influence and commentators searched for the deeper meaning behind the day's events, one question quietly emerged above all the others. Was this simply a heartfelt tribute to a beloved mother, or was Prince William sending a subtle message about the future direction of the monarchy itself? The answer may reveal far more than anyone expected. Long before Prince William became the Prince of Wales, before he assumed greater responsibility within the monarchy, and long before the public began to see him as one of the institution's steadying figures, he was simply a young boy trying to understand an extraordinary life unfolding around him. His childhood was unlike that of almost any other child in Britain. Behind the palace gates were centuries of royal tradition, relentless public attention, and expectations that could shape an entire lifetime. Yet within those same walls was a mother determined to give her sons moments of normality, compassion, and human connection. Princess Diana believed that royal titles should never become barriers between people. She famously took William and his younger brother, Prince Harry, beyond the formal world of palaces and ceremonial duties. She introduced them to hospitals, homeless shelters, and charitable organizations, hoping they would understand lives very different from their own. According to numerous public accounts from those who worked with Diana, these experiences were never staged for cameras alone. They reflected her belief that empathy was one of the greatest responsibilities anyone could carry, especially someone born into privilege. For William, those lessons became part of his identity long before he fully understood their significance. As a child, he watched his mother greet strangers with warmth, kneel to speak with children at eye level, and comfort patients whom others were hesitant even to touch. At the time, these moments may have seemed ordinary to him. Looking back as an adult, however, they would become defining memories, quiet examples of leadership rooted not in authority, but in humanity. Then came the event that changed everything. In August 1997, the death of Princess Diana sent shockwaves around the world. Millions mourned a woman they had never met, yet somehow felt they knew. Outside royal residences, mountains of flowers appeared almost overnight. Candles burned through the darkness. Messages of grief stretched across gates and sidewalks. Television broadcasts captured scenes of silence unlike anything modern Britain had witnessed before. At the center of that grief stood 2 young princes. The images remain etched into public memory. William and Harry walking behind their mother's coffin during the funeral procession, surrounded by unimaginable sorrow while the entire world watched. Years later, both brothers would speak publicly about how difficult that moment had been. Their reflections revealed not only personal heartbreak, but also the extraordinary pressure placed upon children expected to fulfill public duty during the darkest chapter of their lives. That experience shaped William in ways that became visible only over time. Unlike many public figures whose emotions are immediately apparent, William gradually developed a reputation for restraint. His expressions were measured, his public remarks carefully chosen. Royal life demanded composure, but beneath that calm exterior, Many royal commentators have suggested there remained a deeply personal determination to preserve Diana's memory without allowing it to define every aspect of his future. It was a delicate balance. On one hand, Diana had become an international icon whose legacy inspired millions. On the other, she was simply his mother, a woman whose absence would always remain profoundly personal. Every anniversary, every documentary, every public debate about her life inevitably reopened old emotions. As William matured, the monarchy itself entered a period of gradual transformation. Public expectations changed. Social media accelerated scrutiny. Younger generations increasingly valued authenticity over tradition alone. In many ways, the institution found itself navigating questions that had grown more complex than ever before. William stood at the intersection of those changes. Observers often noted that while he deeply respected royal customs, he also appeared committed to modernizing aspects of royal service. His charitable initiatives frequently reflected issues Diana herself had championed: mental health awareness, homelessness, environmental responsibility, and community support. Although his methods differed, many saw familiar threads connecting mother and son. This evolution became even more significant after his marriage to Catherine. Together, they presented an image of stability while raising Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis with an emphasis on emotional openness that many believed echoed lessons William had learned from Diana. Public appearances occasionally revealed small, unscripted family moments, gentle conversations, reassuring gestures, shared laughter that reminded many observers of Diana's own approachable style. Still, William rarely spoke at length about his mother. When he did, his words carried unusual weight precisely because they were so infrequent. Rather than making frequent public references, he often allowed actions to communicate what speeches could not. Whether through charitable work, support for vulnerable communities, or quiet participation in memorial events, his approach reflected consistency rather than spectacle. Meanwhile, Diana's place in Britain's collective memory never faded. Each milestone, her birthdays, anniversaries, and commemorations, became opportunities for the public to reflect not only on who she was, but on what she represented. To some, she symbolized compassion within an ancient institution. To others, she embodied courage in the face of immense personal challenges. New generations who had never witnessed her life firsthand continued discovering her story through documentaries, photographs, and historical accounts. As what would have been her 65th birthday approached, expectations naturally began to grow. Would there be an official tribute? Would senior members of the royal family mark the occasion publicly? Or would the day pass with the quiet dignity that often characterizes deeply personal anniversaries within the monarchy? Royal watchers examined schedules, engagements, and public appearances, searching for clues. Every calendar entry seemed open to interpretation. Every reported meeting invited speculation. Yet Buckingham Palace remained characteristically reserved, offering no dramatic announcements that might suggest something extraordinary was about to unfold. That silence, however, only deepened the anticipation. Because within the royal family, the absence of words can sometimes be just as meaningful as a carefully crafted statement. Those familiar with royal tradition understood that important messages are not always delivered from palace balconies or grand ceremonial halls. Sometimes they emerge through understated decisions whose significance becomes clear only in hindsight. According to several royal commentators, there were subtle indications that this anniversary might be different, not because of elaborate celebrations, but because of the people involved and the symbolism surrounding the day. If those observations prove correct, Britain was about to witness a tribute unlike any it had seen before. And when Prince William finally stepped forward, what happened next transformed a private remembrance into a national moment that few who witnessed it would soon forget. The morning of Diana's 65th birthday did not begin with royal fanfare. There were no state processions rolling through London's streets, no balcony appearance, and no elaborate ceremony announced weeks in advance. Instead, the day unfolded with a remarkable sense of quiet. For many, that silence seemed fitting. Diana's life had often been surrounded by overwhelming attention, yet some of the most meaningful moments associated with her legacy have come in the absence of spectacle. As the hours passed, people gathered at places forever connected to her memory. Outside Kensington Palace, bouquets of white roses, handwritten letters, and photographs gradually accumulated. Some visitors had lived through the events of 1997 and remembered exactly where they were when the tragic news broke. Others were far younger, born years after Diana's death, yet still felt an emotional connection to the woman they had come to know through history, documentaries, and family stories. It was a reminder that Diana's influence had crossed generations. Then attention quietly shifted to Prince William. Unlike many royal occasions, there was no dramatic announcement revealing a carefully choreographed tribute. Instead, William's actions spoke with remarkable restraint. According to publicly reported engagements, he chose to focus on work that reflected the values his mother had championed throughout her life. Rather than centering attention on himself, he directed it toward people whose voices are often overlooked. To many royal observers, that decision carried enormous symbolic weight. For years, William has emphasized that public service is not measured by headlines, but by consistency. Those who have followed his charitable initiatives know that issues such as homelessness, mental health, and community welfare have remained central to his work. These were not causes selected for a single anniversary. They had become defining priorities over many years. Yet on this particular day, the connection felt unmistakable. Many commentators observed that William appeared to be honoring Diana not by recreating her past, but by continuing the principles she lived by. It was an approach rooted in action rather than nostalgia. Instead of asking Britain to remember Diana only for who she was, he seemed to invite people to consider what her compassion still inspires today. That distinction mattered. Royal traditions have often relied upon ceremonies, anniversaries, and historical symbolism. William's approach suggested that legacy could also be measured through ongoing responsibility. The greatest tribute, perhaps, was not preserving memories behind palace walls, but allowing those memories to shape meaningful service in the present. As cameras captured brief moments throughout the day, viewers noticed subtle details. William's expressions remained composed, as expected from a future king. Yet there were fleeting moments when his face appeared unusually reflective. During conversations with members of the public and representatives of charitable organizations, his body language conveyed careful attention rather than ceremonial obligation. He leaned forward as people spoke. He listened without rushing. He smiled gently, but never allowed the occasion to become about celebration. Some royal experts later suggested that these small gestures echoed Diana's own public style. She had possessed an extraordinary ability to make individuals feel genuinely seen. Whether comforting hospital patients, embracing children, or speaking with volunteers, Diana often created moments that appeared deeply personal despite the surrounding cameras. While William's personality differs significantly from his mother's, observers noted similarities in the quiet patience he displayed throughout the engagement. Of course, comparisons between William and Diana have followed him for most of his life. He has rarely encouraged them. Instead, he has consistently sought to establish his own identity while acknowledging the enormous influence his mother had on his values. That balance has never been easy. Every public decision inevitably invites discussion about Diana's legacy. Every charitable initiative raises questions about continuity between generations. On this birthday, however, those comparisons seemed less about personality and more about purpose. Several royal commentators argued that William was demonstrating a modern interpretation of royal leadership, one that places empathy alongside duty rather than treating the two as separate responsibilities. If previous generations often emphasized distance and formality, William appeared increasingly comfortable, showing that compassion itself can strengthen the institution rather than weaken it. That message resonated with many across Britain. Social media quickly filled with photographs of flowers left in Diana's memory alongside reflections on William's quiet tribute. Many people wrote that they had expected a speech or official statement, but found the understated approach far more moving. Others commented that the absence of elaborate ceremony made the day feel deeply authentic. According to reports, visitors at memorial sites spoke not only about Diana, but also about the evolution of the monarchy. Some described William as carrying forward his mother's spirit in ways that did not require constant public reference. Others believed that his actions reflected growing confidence in defining his own style of leadership. Yet there remained another emotional layer beneath the surface. Every tribute to Diana inevitably recalls the complex story of her family. The relationship between William and Prince Harry has been the subject of extensive public discussion for several years. While many details remain private and should remain respected as such, their differing approaches to honoring their mother's legacy have often attracted intense media attention. On this anniversary, that reality lingered quietly in the background. There were no public confrontations, no dramatic exchanges. Yet for many observers, Diana's birthday naturally prompted reflection on the hopes she once expressed for her sons. Throughout her life, she frequently spoke about the importance of their bond. Photographs from their childhood showed laughter, shared adventures, and moments of unmistakable closeness. That history added emotional complexity to the day. Some commentators suggested that William's tribute also reflected his understanding that personal grief evolves over time. As children, memories center on loss itself. As adults, those memories increasingly become guides for how one chooses to live. Rather than remaining defined by tragedy, William appeared focused on ensuring that Diana's influence continues through constructive action. That interpretation resonated with many people who have experienced loss in their own families. Grief rarely disappears. Instead, it changes shape. The most enduring relationships often continue not through constant remembrance alone, but through values carried forward into everyday life. In that sense, William's actions spoke to something far beyond royal history. They reflected a universal experience shared by countless families, the desire to honor loved ones by living according to the lessons they left behind. As evening approached, images from across Britain revealed candles flickering beside photographs of Diana, flowers surrounding memorials, and visitors quietly standing in reflection. There was no single defining photograph that captured the entire day. Instead, its emotional power emerged through dozens of smaller moments woven together. Then came the detail that many believe transformed a meaningful anniversary into something unforgettable. According to several royal commentators, the timing and symbolism of William's tribute suggested more than remembrance alone. They argued that it represented a quiet declaration about the kind of monarchy he hopes to help shape. One grounded not only in constitutional duty, but also in compassion, accessibility, and genuine human connection. Whether that interpretation proves entirely accurate remains open to debate. The royal family seldom explains the deeper meaning behind symbolic gestures, allowing the public to draw its own conclusions. But for many watching, one thought became impossible to ignore. If this was indeed William's vision for the future, then Diana's influence had not merely survived the passage of time. It had become part of the foundation upon which the next generation of the monarchy may ultimately be built. Part 4. Meaning, Legacy and Future. If history teaches anything about the British monarchy, it is that institutions survive not simply because they preserve tradition, but because they gradually learn how to reflect the values of the people they serve. Every generation inherits the same crown, yet every generation must decide what that responsibility should look like in its own time. On what would have been Princess Diana's 65th birthday, many people felt they were witnessing one of those quiet moments of transition, not marked by constitutional change, but by a shift in tone. Prince William has never suggested that the monarchy should abandon its history. In fact, much of his public life has demonstrated profound respect for centuries of royal tradition. State ceremonies, military commemorations, national remembrance events, and official duties remain central to his role. But alongside those responsibilities, he has consistently highlighted issues that directly affect ordinary families. Homelessness, mental well-being, environmental stewardship, and early childhood development. For many observers, that combination reflects something deeply significant. Rather than choosing between tradition and compassion, William appears determined to unite them. That approach echoes one of Diana's greatest strengths. She did not reject the monarchy. Instead, she expanded public expectations of what royal service could mean. She showed that dignity and empathy could exist side by side. She demonstrated that listening could be as powerful as speaking. While her life contained undeniable challenges and public conflict, her humanitarian work left an enduring impression that continues to influence conversations about modern royal leadership. William's tribute seemed to acknowledge precisely that legacy. It was not an attempt to recreate Diana's public image. Such an effort would likely be impossible and perhaps even unfair. Diana belonged to a unique moment in history, shaped by circumstances that cannot be repeated. Instead, William appeared to embrace the principles beneath her popularity rather than the popularity itself. That distinction may ultimately define his leadership. Many future kings have been remembered for political eras or constitutional developments. William's generation faces a different challenge. Public trust is increasingly built through authenticity, consistency, and visible service. Modern audiences have unprecedented access to information, making symbolic gestures meaningful only when supported by long-term action. According to royal commentators, this is where William's years of charitable work become especially important. His support for initiatives addressing homelessness, mental health, and community resilience did not begin on Diana's birthday. They represent a sustained commitment developed over many years. Because of that consistency, the tribute felt credible rather than ceremonial. It also highlighted another important reality. Legacy is rarely preserved through monuments alone. Palaces, statues, portraits, and memorial gardens certainly matter. They provide places where history can be remembered and shared. Yet the most enduring legacies are often carried through behavior. They appear in the choices people make when no grand audience is expected. For William, that may be the greatest lesson inherited from his mother. Diana's lasting influence was never limited to photographs or headlines. It lived in the countless individuals whose lives she touched, many of whom have publicly spoken about brief encounters that changed them forever. Hospital patients remembered her kindness decades later. Charity workers recalled feeling genuinely valued. Families affected by illness described moments of comfort they never forgot. Those stories continue because they were deeply human. William's quiet tribute reminded many people that compassion does not lose its relevance with time. If anything, it becomes more valuable in an increasingly divided world. Public life often rewards dramatic statements and immediate reactions. Diana's legacy, and perhaps William's interpretation of it, suggests that lasting influence is more often built through patience, consistency, and sincere human connection. There is also a deeply personal dimension that cannot be overlooked. William is no longer simply Diana's son. He is a husband, a father, and the heir to the throne. Every decision he makes now carries consequences extending far beyond himself. His children are growing up with an understanding of their grandmother that comes through stories, photographs, and the memories shared by those who knew her. Although William has understandably protected many private family moments from public view, he has occasionally spoken about ensuring that Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis know who Diana was. In doing so, he has acknowledged an important truth familiar to countless families around the world: love does not end with loss. It continues through remembrance, conversation, and the values passed from one generation to the next. That may be one of the most moving aspects of this entire story. For younger members of the royal family, Diana is both history and family. She is a figure studied by millions, but she is also a grandmother they never had the chance to know personally. William's choices help shape how her memory is carried forward, not only within the monarchy, but within his own home. The broader future of the monarchy will, of course, be shaped by many factors beyond any single anniversary. Public expectations will continue evolving. New challenges will emerge. Future generations will bring their own priorities and perspectives. Yet anniversaries such as Diana's 65th birthday serve as reminders that institutions are ultimately defined by people, relationships, and shared values rather than ceremony alone. Some observers interpreted William's actions as a quiet statement about the kind of king he hopes to become. Others viewed them simply as the heartfelt tribute of a son remembering his mother. Those interpretations are not necessarily contradictory. Perhaps both can be true. The strongest acts of leadership are often deeply personal before they become public. They begin with private convictions that gradually shape public responsibility. If William's tribute conveyed anything, it was that memory can be transformed into purpose, and that purpose can inspire service extending far beyond one individual life. Nearly 3 decades after Diana's passing, her presence still seems to linger in unexpected ways. Not because history refuses to move forward, but because certain values remain timeless. Compassion, duty, kindness, the courage to reach out to those who feel unseen. These ideals continue to resonate regardless of changing headlines or generations. As the flowers placed in her memory slowly faded and visitors quietly returned home, the significance of the day remained. It was never really about one birthday. It was about the enduring relationship between memory and responsibility. It was about a son finding his own way to honor a mother whose influence continues to shape both his life and, perhaps, the future of the monarchy itself. And in that quiet, thoughtful tribute, many across Britain did not simply remember Princess Diana. They saw the enduring power of a legacy that continues to guide the next chapter of the royal family. If Princess Diana's legacy still has the power to move people nearly 3 decades later, perhaps it reminds us that true influence is measured not by titles or headlines, but by the lives we touch along the way. And if Prince William's quiet tribute revealed anything, it is that some of the most meaningful messages are spoken without words. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more thoughtful, in-depth stories about the royal family, their history, and the moments that shaped the monarchy behind the headlines, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next episode. We'd also love to hear your perspective. Do you believe Prince William's tribute was simply a son's heartfelt remembrance? Or do you think it signaled a new vision for the future of the monarchy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next documentary.